Our hearts are heavy this evening. Many of us mourn the passing, murder, to be even more specific, of Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, two people whose lives were cut short in an act of horrendous violence outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. Earlier, it took me a little while longer than normal to send out an email, mostly because I just sat watching, stunned, not really necessarily even possessing words, and just for whatever reason, slowly processing the fact that two people were murdered in the United States Capitol attending a Jewish event. Yaron and Sarah were colleagues. They were a couple who were planning on building a life together. It was learned that he had purchased a ring and they were going to be headed to Israel, where I guess the assumption is he would propose. They had dedicated their lives to diplomatic work, Sarah particularly with an organization that fostered dialogue between different communities, between Israelis and Palestinians. They were young people with bright futures, stolen from their family, their friends, and the community. This tragedy has occurred on the backdrop, though, of rising anti-Semitism across the country. The FBI reported anti-Jewish hate crimes have increased by 63% in recent years. 63%. Jewish institutions across the nation have had to significantly increase security measures, a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities we all face. And this attack represents the painful realization that many feel and fear that hateful rhetoric left unchecked can translate and escalate into violence. We have watched with growing concern as hateful words have slowly, creepily, stealthily become normalized. Knowing too well from our history where that normalization of hate can lead. According to CNN, when they asked the question, how did the shooting happen? The details made me sick. Not only was the shooter pacing back and forth in front of the museum, not only did he have a gun waiting and ready to shoot, he had walked past a group of people, he looked at them and emptied a gun into Lashinsky's back and into Sarah Milgram. As she attempted to crawl away and sit up and do whatever she could, he reloaded and shot her, killing her. Once in custody, the gunman chanted, "Free, free Palestine." The police recovered 21 bullets at the scene. These two were not a statistic. They were people. They had dreams, they had loves, they had ambitions, and they had purpose. They represented what we want our young people to do. So how do we make sense of any of this? How do we make sense of the ongoing violence in Gaza, the terrorist attacks in Israel, the rising anti-Semitism in not only our country but around the world? The fear we feel is real. And it's scary. Many of us don't even realize the financial burden of security on our community. According to the Wall Street Journal, a study of 63 Orthodox Jewish schools found the average security costs in 2022 and 2023 was $184,000 a year. That has risen to $339,000 in 2024 through 2025. and many Jewish events around the nation are kept private until just beforehand to minimize security threats. The purported manifesto from the suspect recites the usual slanders about Israel, not even so imaginative. This week, though, what is surprising, though at this point almost commonplace, not even related to the shooting, but a United Nations humanitarian chief claimed 14,000 babies in Gaza were going to starve to death in the next 48 hours. Later, the UN conceded that was bogus, but his statement went viral nonetheless. Just to let you know, I sent out the letter that I sent out several hours ago, taking me longer than normal to write. And normally when I send you guys emails, I almost never get a response, which is fine. By the way, I figured this out a long time ago about the congregation. If you don't respond, that's your sense of approval. So getting a response told me that it hit a nerve in a way that other things don't. In one of those emails that I sent out, I received a message that the congregant wanted me to be aware of a viral TikTok from a creator who has 3.4 million followers, who was happy about the assassination of Zionists. In an interview with Fox and Friends following the brutal attack and assassination, AJC CEO Ted Deutsch sounded alarms on how anti-Semitism is not just a Jewish problem, it's a global problem that threatens democracy and all humanity. Again, as a rabbi though, I struggle. How do I make theological sense of all of this? I settled on focusing on the meaning of suffering. I know for us today, if I ask you, what is your image of God? Many of you are going to go right back to what you learned in Sunday school, the three omnis. I know because I've taught it. Omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. All-knowing, all-powerful, always present. After all, when we think about it, the medieval philosophers really wanted us to push ourselves away from any other image of God. They wanted, and Maimonides pushed this idea of God as far away. I don't think that's good enough anymore. I don't think that helps us very much anymore. I think we need a different version of God. One that's closer, one that makes sense to us, one that can even walk with us. The rabbis, the early Middle Ages and even before, had no problem understanding and using metaphors of God in anthropomorphic or bodily forms. It is this embodied God, I think, that we need so badly. A God who mirrors our pain. We need a God to walk with us, next to us, as we grapple with our fear, our grief, and our feelings of isolation. In the Midrash that I read about this, the rabbis sometimes will describe God almost in bird form, bird-like. Also they'll describe God with big feet, and it's actually kind of fascinating when you go down that rabbit hole. But as a part of a larger conversation found in Exodus Rabbah, looking at the burning bush moment, the rabbis were having a debate. Again, this is a story that's familiar to many people in Sunday school. Why was a thorn bush chosen? It was just chosen to represent the minor, small bush, that every single bush matters. Every single thing matters. Every single person matters. And yet, a rereading of that same midrash, if you put it into its larger context, shows something even more powerful. Julia Batwelser, a teacher on Judaism and disability, actually highlighted this for me earlier this week in a teaching when she described and discussed and argued that really, when you look up at it, the angels themselves were even arguing about which bush, because they wanted to highlight that no space is devoid of the divine. And she shared a story where Rabbi Yossi describes the harshest of all places, the thorn bush. And for him, he related the thorn bush as Egypt, where it's sharp and there's nothing lush there, and it's painful. And you can almost imagine what it would be like to have all of those prickliness around you. And if you think about the Hebrew of Mitzrayim, a narrow place, it's a narrow place with prickliness. And Rabbi Yossi shares that the bird goes into and enters the bush, but even the bird itself does not come out unscathed. Even God, who goes into the place of most pain and suffering, is pricked by the thorn and comes out changed. When you sit and think about it in those terms, that pain impacts everybody, that God can even mirror us, that God can be next to us, it makes the moment where the pain in the present may seem all so unbearable, that it just seems never ending, that the war that's dragged on and on seems never ending, that the fear and the doubt is there, but so is the bird inside of the bush with us. So where does that leave us tonight? Well, it leaves us sitting in the thorn bush, a place where God gets hurt too. And I wish I wish that I could tell you that understanding this from the particular theological perspective I've shared makes the pain go away. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I wish I could say that knowing that God suffers with us answers all of our questions about why Sarah had to crawl away only to be shot and killed. It doesn't. But what I do know is that we're not alone in the harsh place. When we lit the candle earlier for Yaron and Sarah this evening, we were not only remembering two beautiful people, we were acknowledging that God is here in the thorn bush with us, wounded, grieving, and feeling every thorn. The rabbis teach us that no place is devoid of the divine, not even this thorny space, not even the space where hatred wins and peacemakers die and parents bury children who are planning an engagement. God sees, we read in Exodus, and knows pain from the inside. So we don't have to pretend the thorns don't hurt. We don't have to spiritualize away what has happened to Yaron and Sarah. We just have to know that the thorn bush is grief and fear and rage. And in all of that, there's God as well. May that be enough. And maybe that's how we keep walking through the thorns together.